Okay, ready?
We're live.
We're live. Good evening, everyone. This is Janet Norman. I'm your chair of the City of Annapolis Education Commission. And this is our online meeting, monthly meeting for Wednesday, August 31st, 2022. We have a variety of our commission members with us. We're going to go through roll call. Laura's going to pull up. But when we go through roll call, I'd just like you to introduce yourselves, introduce your connection to the school system, whether you have current students in at what school, previous students, or if you've worked in a school, so that our viewers get to know you and the commission members a little bit better as they understand when we're speaking, what perspectives we come from. So I'm going to start us off. And I am Janet Norman. I'm a parent of Annapolis High graduates from 2021 and 2018, and past president of Annapolis High PTSA and still a PTSA member, and proud to be associated with Big and Little Panthers. Next, I'm going to go to Odessa.
Hi, good evening. Odessa Ellis, retired permanent substitute teacher from Annapolis High School. I've had three children to graduate from Annapolis High, one girl, two boys. And even though I am retired, I'm working harder now in the community, especially with young parents with children. So I get phone calls like Robinwood doesn't have transportation and all. Nobody has transportation there. It's all over the place.
Right.
So yeah, I'm enjoying my retirement, but still working hard with the young mothers in the
Yes.
communities.
Thank you for staying connected to them. I'm going to go to
Mhm.
Pam next. And Odessa is an at-large member of the commission. Next, Pam.
Okay. I'm Pam Bukowski. My 6 children attended schools in the Annapolis cluster. My youngest graduated in 2010. I'm a retired speech language pathologist from Anne Arundel County. I retired in 2019. I've been active in the commission since it was a committee in 2006. And since I've retired, actually, I've been doing double duty with helping my son down in North Carolina with his 2 sons, one of whom has autism. So I'm sort of back and forth on a biweekly basis.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. And Pam is also our secretary, which is a
I'm
super important job, keeps us all legal, and we're very thankful that someone is doing that vital role. So thank you, Pam.
You're welcome.
Moving to Jess Packler.
Oh, sure. Call my name as soon as I scroll away. I'm Jess Packler. I'm the Ward 8 commissioner. I am the mom of 4 kids in the Annapolis cluster, 2 at Eastport Elementary, 1 at Annapolis Middle, and 1 at Annapolis High School. I'm also involved in the PTAs at all 3 of those schools. And fairly involved in various other things in the Eastport community. And I've been on the commission for a very long time now. I mean, just days ago, I joined it to meet some mom friends, and I think it's been 12 years.
And then the decade goes by.
I really enjoy being involved in this and trying to make a difference in our kids' everyday lives and our awesome cluster, because I love our schools and our cluster and what we have to offer.
Great. Thank you, Jess. And Jess is Ward 6. Enid Allison Lee from Ward 3.
Hi,
I'm Enid Allison Lee from Ward 3. As Pam and I were both on the commission when it was just a committee. So we've been here a while working for the community and the kids. I have 2 children, adults now, who went through the Anne Arundel County school system, and I was also a teacher in the system for 41 years.
Wow, that's phenomenal. Yes. Great, thank you. Moving to Laura Booth.
So I am the Ward 7 representative. I have a 2021 graduate of Annapolis High. Yay, go Panthers. And then I have a current student at Bates Middle School. My kids have endeavored to not attend any of the same schools, so that's kind of been exciting. I've gotten lots of experience with different schools in our cluster. And I'm like Jess, I'm also involved with PTA and the president of the Bates PTA.
Excellent. Thank you, Laura. And Laura is the vice chair of the commission this year. Alderwoman Finlayson.
Good evening. Thank you. Sheila Finlayson, Alderwoman representing the City Council. Former educator, spent 35 years with Anne Arundel County Public Schools as an English teacher and served as the TAP president for 4 years, in addition to any number of other roles within the Teachers Association. I am the senior member on the City Council, and I too was part of the commission during its inception under Mayor Moyer, I believe it was.
Excellent.
So it's a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you for the wealth you bring to the city and the commission from a variety of roles. Next to Jamie Weaver.
Hi, I'm Jamie Weaver. I'm representing Ward 2. I have 3 children at Germantown Elementary, where I also am part of the PTA. Previously, I was an Anne Arundel County Public School teacher. I was special ed with the Infants and Toddlers program. So that's from here.
I did not know that. Thank you for those talents. And then Corey McKell.
Hi everyone, my name is Corey Hagel, and I have 2 children that attend schools in the Annapolis cluster. I have an 8th grader in Annapolis Middle, a 10th grader in Annapolis High School, and I recently joined the Board of Commission officially in, was it February? I think.
Awesome. And thank you. And yeah, and Corey represents Ward 6. So I think that is all our commissioners reporting in. So India Oaks had a prior conflict, and she represents Ward 5. And she said she's going to try and join us when she can. But I do want to note that we have vacancies in Ward 1, Ward 4, and where else, Jess? Ward 1 vacancy, Ward 4 vacancy, and an at-large vacancy. So please contact us at AnnapolisEducationCommission@gmail.com if you have any interest in helping us achieve the goals of helping students and parents within the city of Annapolis and moving us forward. The more talents we have, the better off we're going to be.
Excuse me, Dan. Dan, I don't know these wards, but Ward 1, where is that located?
Ward 1 is the downtown. So Brianna was from
Downtown.
Ward 1. That's the downtown Murray Hill area of Ward 1.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And Ward 4 is along Forest Drive.
Okay. Yeah. So if you have any good, if you interact with people and you just want to let them know, hey, we'd love to have your talents if you live in these wards or the at-large. Hopefully Pam's application for the at-large will move forward with the next opportunity for review by the city council subcommittees. It'll take a while. So if we can get the people participating with us before they become commissioners, we would love that. And also remember to invite other people to join us at any time. If you have a suggestion for a presenter or you have guest participants you would like, we always invite them to join. Okay. Laura, could you bring up the agenda for us?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
Are you going to introduce our president of the school board?
I could, or I was going to introduce her when she was speaking, but but we are blessed to have Dr. Joanna Tobin here with us. And she very generously gives us her time often for our Education Commission meetings, which is super helpful in her explanations of the status of actions and priorities. And we most gratefully thank her for the incredible amount of work in the superintendent search that landed us such a phenomenal new superintendent, Mr. Mark Bedell, that we're all very thankful for. So we will be hearing from Dr. Tobin shortly.
Thank you.
Yes. So Laura, we have, this is tonight's agenda. Does anyone have any objections to this agenda or significant? We do have an unfinished business and a new business section to cover other items, but any objections to the agenda before we move forward? Okay. Hearing none, I'm gonna.
No, I'm sorry. Under unfinished business, we had, when we had talked about membership before, we had talked about, I think you and Jess had said something about the, trying to find a student member from Annapolis and.
Right. I'm gonna address that under
Okay,
unfinished business because it was luckily Pam wrote that as one of the action items.
Okay, that's right.
And
Okay.
it reminded me to address that point.
I make a motion to approve the agenda.
Thank you, Jess. Any objection? So
Second.
moved. Okay, so moved, seconded by Alderwoman. Agenda is approved. So we sent out the draft minutes from Pam's draft from our June, was it the 22nd meeting? June 22nd, 2022. Has anyone had a chance to look through those minutes so that we could vote on them, or would you prefer to postpone to the next meeting? I'm sorry, I didn't get them out to you with much advance notice.
These are the May minutes up here. Did you also have the June minutes in here?
No, I think I might have just, I think those are the June minutes and I just did the date wrong. I don't know, or somebody did the date wrong. For that reason, I think we will postpone voting on the minutes until we can clarify that the correct draft was sent out. I believe it was, and I think there's just a mislabeling of the date, but I will propose that we, if you can send any changes in and before the next end of September meeting, and we will vote on adopting the minutes at that point. If that makes sense. Thank you. Public testimony is next on our agenda. We did have one submission through the, if you go on the City of Annapolis webpage for the Education Commission, there is a link of how to provide testimony to the commission. It comes through the city to us. And we had a submission that we will talk about maybe in more depth a little bit later, but I wanted to tell you about it from Kara McCandless, who has been a PTA member at PTA officer at Annapolis Middle, and she was the former CAC representative for the Annapolis cluster and was active at Annapolis High. I'm going to read you, I don't think I have it up on the thing, so I'm going to read you the comments. She's saying, I'm writing to urge the Annapolis Education Commission to develop and advance solutions to the rapidly accelerating overcrowding at Annapolis High School, and also verify if the city continues to be in compliance with the Adequate Public Facilities Ordinance, Chapter 22.25, Adequate School Facilities. According to the AACPS Education Facilities Master Plan, in 2022 to 23, Annapolis High School will be at 109% capacity, making it among the more overcrowded high schools in AACPS. AHS will be the second most overcrowded school overall in AHS. Annapolis High School will have 8 portable classrooms, Well, Meade High School has more portable classrooms, 10. All other high schools have 0 to 3. By 2031, Annapolis High School will reach 122% capacity, will be the most overcrowded school in all of AACPS, and will have 460 more students than it has capacity to accommodate. This is continuing to read Kara's testimony submission. AACPS has 3 new high schools in construction or planned: Old Mill West, West County. Yet none of these schools will serve Annapolis students or provide relief to Annapolis High School. The growing overcrowding presents a number of safety concerns. Student tensions can quickly erupt into fights in AHS's overcrowded hallways. The parking lots and roads leading to AHS are congested and hazardous, and the building can never be truly secure with a constant stream of students moving in and out of the school to the 8 portable classrooms. I'm a proud parent of 2 AHS seniors. I understand that any new construction or building improvements will not benefit them, but I want better conditions for the students who follow them. And I want my son's final year to be safe and stress-free despite the crowded conditions. I hope that you will use your influence to ensure that AACPS, city and county leaders are doing all they can to ensure AHS students have a safe and conducive learning environment this school year. Thank you for your consideration of this issue. Kara McCandless, Annapolis High School parent, Annapolis Ward 5 resident. So that is the only public testimony we have received this month. That's the only official public testimony. We have received other input from various schools that have told our commissioners various things we will talk about during the transportation phase. But that was the one public submission officially. Okay, Laura, then moving on from public testimony, we are going to go into the meat of our presentation. We do not have
And no one's here just due to public testimony. I was just wondering because I see somebody in our pictures that's not someone unless that's in a different name.
Okay, McNeil. Do we have someone? Do you want to?
Yes, I invited all this.
Sorry, we couldn't hear you.
Ms. McNeil.
Okay.
Oh, yes, okay. Ms. McNeil is a teacher at Annapolis High School, and we work together with the Black History Club.
Okay.
And I invited her, and I wasn't sure whether she was going to come or not. But Ms. McNeil, you can introduce yourself.
Great.
Can she hear?
Good
Ms.
evening.
McNeil?
Hello,
Okay.
hello everyone. Good evening. I'm off camera because I'm
Sure.
in transit, but I just wanted to get an insight. I'm a new teacher and I'm trying to build a relationship with the community. So just want to get an insight to the commission. And I guess Ms. Ellis said I do work with her. I've been there at Annapolis High for 2 years.
Excellent.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. And what which department are you in?
I'm interdisciplinary right now, so I'm teaching GCC. I teach history, some history courses, and I teach English.
Okay. And for those who aren't familiar, the GCC course is it the Global Community Citizen? Is that what it stands for?
That's correct.
Okay. Yeah, that we've been excited over the past years was a new requirement for graduation for our students to become more aware of their other students and the global community in which they live. So that is great to have you with us. Thank you so much for joining. There's a wealth of expertise in this room. So as a new teacher, if you ever, want to get some context or need some support, we'll search for grants for you. We'll try and do our best to problem solve whatever our teachers and our staff are in need of. So thank you for joining tonight. If you have any other things you'd like to let us know about.
Well, professionally, this is my 23rd and a half year of teaching.
Wow.
And I am a transplant from the state of New Jersey. I've been in Maryland for 5 years, bounced around a couple of districts, had a central office position in another district. And I'm really lucky to have found Annapolis High. I really do enjoy working at Annapolis. I enjoy working with the students. And for my second act professionally, it's given me some revitalization. I spent a long time in another city in New Jersey, helping to rebuild the school. And we did a wonderful job with that. And I really see a lot of potential and a lot of great things happening at A-High. So it's a real good second act revitalization.
We are thrilled to hear that. So many of us that have experienced Annapolis High feel exactly the same, that it's an incredible place for our kids to connect with each other and connect with teachers and mentors. So thank you for bringing your expertise to Annapolis High, where it's very much appreciated. I am going to turn things over, keeping an eye on the time. We have our Board of Education President, Dr. Joanna Tobin, here with us. And I know I'm going to be the bad cop gatekeeper as we try not to overwhelm. A lot of people have questions on different aspects, and we'll let Dr. Tobin give a little bit of summary of, how things are going with Dr. Bedell's new priorities, the board's priorities. Just, we've had a lot of changes this year, and we appreciate everyone's patience and grace as we go through. But if I cut you off, it's not personal. We just need to move everyone along and get a lot of questions answered. So, Dr. Tobin, we give you the floor. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Janet. Thank you to all the commissioners. For those on here that haven't met me before, I'm Joanna Tobin. I represent District 6, which is the Annapolis area, on the board. And this year I'm serving as president. My daughter graduated from Annapolis High in 2020. I was vice president of the PTSA there for 3 years. And I'm still a PTSA member, because once you're a Panther parent, you're always a Panther parent. So, and I'm thrilled to hear Ms. McNeil's take on her experience over the last couple of years at Annapolis High. It really is an extraordinary school. And last spring, so one of the privileges of being on the board is I get to be at all the graduations, and my colleagues on the board get sick of me saying, no, you have to come to the Annapolis graduation. And one of my colleagues who'd never been to the Annapolis graduation came with me last year. And afterwards he said, yeah, you're right. It's not like our other high schools. There's something about that school. So it is a fabulous place, as are all the schools in our cluster. So let me be as quick as I can here. So obviously, Dr. Bedell, our new superintendent, began on August 8th. We had a transition period with Monique Jackson, one of our deputy superintendents, was the acting superintendent for about 5 weeks. Obviously, Dr. Bedell, while also running the Kansas City district, was also very much involved in the transition there, and he's hit the ground running. I've been on several school visits now over the past couple of days, and tomorrow I'll be visiting a number of the Annapolis cluster schools with him. He moves very fast and he sees a lot. And I think he is very impressed with a lot of what he sees. But he is also doing, as he should do, a very deep dive. You may be aware, some of you, that his 100-day plan is up on the ACPS website for all to see. It makes me tired every time I read it, because he really is going to look at everything top to bottom. And as he put it, produce a report for us on the board, probably November-ish, the middle of November, with the good, the bad, and the ugly. What he thinks is great, what he thinks needs change. And he is all about transparency. I think you've probably noticed this summer, you were getting reports every week. You are continuing to get reports every week of the status of staffing and various other things. Obviously, we've opened school this week. Opening school is never the smoothest of things. For the most part, actually, what a lot of us have seen has been very good. I think people are thrilled to be back in what feels like a fairly normal year for the first time in a very, very long time. Kids are thrilled to be back in school and see their friends. Teachers are thrilled to have had sort of regular in-service weeks and now an opening with their students where they don't have to be worrying about cohorts and 6-foot distances and so forth. I mean, we still obviously monitor the COVID situation, but it is not driving us in the same way. And that, of course, is always on the advice of the health experts. And so that has been going well. We've obviously got some transportation things that have to do, unfortunately, with the ongoing bus driver shortage. There have been reports, I don't think so much in the Annapolis cluster, in other parts of the county, of overcrowded buses. What's generally happening is we've got kids who are not supposed to be on those buses who are getting on some buses. And so we're working now to make sure we've got it straight, because this was, for those of you who have closely followed transportation in the Annapolis or in the Anne Arundel County system for years, as I know many of you have, this was the first year, because of registration, that the buses were set up based on actually knowing how many kids would be on those buses. We never really knew that before. Mm-hmm. But even with that, we've got settling to do as the first couple of weeks happen, and we figure out what actual ridership looks like as opposed to projected ridership, because some people said yes and then have other changes. We are, and part of that is working to rebalance so we can provide transportation where we know some families don't have it. Let me say right off the bat, for any family that doesn't have transportation, is trying to figure it out, the first thing to do is call your school's principal. Because the principals have been sort of working with the community as they know people are coming in. If there are people who want to set up a carpool, you know, trying to match people up and so forth. So that's the first thing to do. We have various things that some of you may be aware that there was legislation passed actually a while ago, but the final regulations didn't get to us until April, which will enable us to use vans in some cases where we couldn't previously. Those vans will be coming online as the fall goes on, because we didn't get the regulations till April. We couldn't put the contracts were approved in May. And of course, at that moment, every school district in Maryland ordered vans at the same time, which, if anybody's tried to buy a new car recently, is taking time. So, you know, we're working with that. We are hopeful that a service called Hop, Skip, and Jump will be coming online in Maryland in the next few months, which is kind of an Uber for kids. That could give us some other options as well, but has never been allowed to operate in Maryland. Of course, all of this depends on the state stepping up for us on this. So we are working this problem. I will tell you, the foundational problem has not gone away. We're short bus drivers. We can't compete very well in the market for bus drivers. We have something like 70 bus drivers in the pipeline. But we know from experience a number of things will happen. It's an arduous process. Many just will decide it's not worth going through the whole process. Some simply won't pass the exams that are required. Some will pass the exam and will take a job with, Amazon, because they'll have a CDL license. So we will yield out of that 70 not a huge number of actual bus drivers. We continue to actively recruit. Unfortunately, as we all know, the single bus company that bids on the Annapolis routes is not a strong bus company. And so we have an added difficulty in the Annapolis cluster. And they also serve some of the Broadneck runs as well. Added difficulty with bus drivers. So Dr. Bedell is very much aware of all of this. He is working very hard Our transportation department continues to be upgraded. They've been working with Prismatic now for a couple of years. They are actually getting, I should say, better. The staffing is stronger. We've still got unfortunately, there is still a vacancy for the specialist that covers the Annapolis district. So we're working on that.
We get double whammies a little too often.
Yeah, and it's the Annapolis they cover Annapolis and Broadneck, that position, and that is the position that's vacant, and those are probably some of the weakest runs. So it's unfortunate, but they are, working to hire.
Can they shift someone over? Are they shifting someone over from the transportation department into that vacancy?
Well, they have a certain number of specialists, right? And the other positions they've hired into, but they're still working to hire somebody into the, for now, if you call the transportation department from the Annapolis or Broadneck district, you need to speak with the director of transportation.
Okay.
And as soon as I'm aware that they've hired someone into the Annapolis Broadneck position, I will let you know.
I'm sorry to jump in, but given that we are most likely to have the most amount of calls into the transportation department, doesn't it not make sense? Like, wouldn't it make sense to move, I don't know, the southern person to Broadneck, Annapolis since we have the majority of the transportation issues in the Annapolis Broadneck clusters? Wouldn't it, rather than having the director of transportation have to answer all of our questions because that position is in?
I can ask about that. That's obviously not something I can,
right.
as a board member, but I can, I'm assuming they have their reasons, but I will certainly ask in terms of how they've staffed up the way they have. And I'm assuming it's simply what responses, they're presumably advertising for these specific positions. So I don't know, what that status is, but yeah, it would make sense. I should tell you the Southern District is actually having a lot of issues as well. So I wish I could say there was somebody who really has no issues. That's not the case. And there are districts this year that are having trouble that didn't last year. We got the brunt of it last year, along with South River and parts of Broadneck. It's a little more widespread this year. I think I'm trying to think. The start time, obviously the school hours have changed this year. And so people are getting used to that. I think in the school visits I've made, which thus far have been elementary schools, the kids that I've spoken to, and in fact, the parents I've spoken to, have been very happy about it. The kids are happy to be at school earlier. But certainly there are those, adjustments that have had to be made for families that have been difficult. And so those are sort of the big changes right now that we're going through. I think one of the next big things to watch for, obviously we have our regular business going forward. There will be at our next board meeting this coming Wednesday, the 7th, a presentation on the process of the redistricting that's going to happen around Old Mill, the new high school there, and some various other clusters. Now that won't immediately obviously affect our cluster, this cluster, but we updated our policy last year on redistricting. And part of that included a statement that there be a possibility at the time of a major event, whether it's a new high school being built or census or various things, a sort of broad look at the whole county with regard to redistricting. Because to Ms. McCandless's letter, and she sent the same email to me, a couple of things. First of all, we have to look at balancing seats. So there are now some empty seats in South River, for example. So redistricting one of our feeders down to South River may be one thing to pursue. One thing I believe Ms. McCandless is incorrect in one matter, which is North County High School has a lot of portables. So I think that there are a number, in addition to Meade, North County is actually more overcrowded than Annapolis is. But I do think a couple of things need to be considered. First of all, and I when I responded to Ms. McCandless, I talked about this, which is that, we have a plan, a 10-year plan that's revised every 10 years for improvements down the line for 10 years and new construction additions and so forth. The current plan is in effect until 2025. In 2024 and starting even in 23, we're going to need to start making that next plan. And Ms. McCandless referenced, I think, 2031, that very high number of occupancy at Annapolis High. So obviously addressing that will go in the next plan. So I would urge the community, I'm glad Ms. McCandless is putting this out there, to begin to pay attention to this, because we have immediate things we have to take care of in Annapolis High, but we also have to be thinking, frankly, about advocacy around that next plan and, making sure that the concerns around Annapolis are heard and are worked into that plan, as they should be, as a matter of course, simply because of the projections that we have. But obviously, it's always important that the community have its voice heard. And finally, speaking of the community, it included in Dr. Bedell's 100-day plan are listening sessions. He's going to be around in various communities. There will be opportunities to meet him, to hear what he has to say. I took him to a couple of events in the Annapolis community. We attended a backpack event at Eastport United Methodist Church a few weekends. It was really literally the first weekend after he had started. And for 2.5 hours, he stood and talked to anyone and everyone, and I think had a great time. And he'll talk to the parents. He's much happier to talk to the kids. So his background, I think I've told you this before, his background is as an elementary teacher, and I think you can see that when he's around kids. And we also attended the graduation of the summer program for the REACH after school program at Pitt Moyer last weekend. And he was able to meet some of the students in that group and many of the adults in the community who are very active working for the kids. And I believe, Ms. Odessa, you were there, you met Dr. Bedell at the Eastport United Methodist Church, and you had a chance to talk with him, as I recall.
Yes, I did. And you set me up with that ugly picture of me. With but yes, he's very, very respectful, and he listened to some of, to the parents, and as a matter of fact, he was really bombarded. He handled it really great. So he seems like that he's going to be a perfect fit for Annapolis.
I think he will. He lives in Annapolis. His daughter is a 6th grader at Bates. And I think, he said to me, to walk into this, if he hadn't already been a superintendent for 6 years, it would be a pretty steep learning curve. But obviously he's sat in that seat in another district for quite a while. And while this is a bigger district and each district has its own particular elements, I think you'll find he's not overwhelmed. He knows what needs to be done. he also understands, and I think this is something we share, and one of the many reasons I'm so thrilled that we were fortunate to hire him, that we have to restore trust. And the way to do that is to be transparent. We have to be, the COVID, everything has been very difficult. He has no problem being as upfront with all the information that there is. You'll find at any event, he never uses a script. He is ready to respond and to answer whatever is there.
Right.
And he listens. He really listens incredibly well. And I think he's got ideas on what he thinks. He's already stated publicly something that has been a dream of mine, and I talked to him about this as we were hiring him, which is that he very much wants to see dual language immersion program in the county. And there's certainly some schools in the Annapolis cluster that are ready to do that. I think he has a lot of ideas like that in mind that he believes are just I guess one of the things that struck him work from some of the other districts he's worked in is just how much we have here. And that there, as he puts it, there's fruit on the ground here to pick up. And he has actually committed publicly and to us that he thinks this is a good system. He thinks it can be a great system and possibly the top system in the state in a couple of years. And he knows what he's talking about. He's done that kind of thing before. But he will be doing his due diligence and looking at everything in the system, because he is an educator. He assesses before he acts. And so we on the board look forward to that report, and that everyone will see that report, and we can move forward with a lot of good information, I think. So I think that's about sums it up.
That's a great summary. I know you have to scoot shortly after 7. So I want to give our members time to ask some questions to follow up. I know Odessa had her hand up first, so we're going to go to her.
Okay. Dr. Tubin, thank you for coming. But, first I heard, is Tina Acker is still there? I heard that she left. Tina Acker in transportation.
I believe she left. There's a new.
So who's sorry. Yes, who's the director of transportation now?
Is it Ms. Witcher? I think is the new. She came on last spring. She came to us from the Maryland Department of Transportation. I believe she's also an AACPS parent. She too has come into a lot of change over there. So I've heard actually some, while one hears a lot of frustration with the transportation department, I've also heard some good reports of people actually getting their phone calls returned and some getting the information that they need. So I think they're working hard over there to begin to not only use all the information they've had, everything from their software to the registrations that they got, but build their ability to connect.
Yeah, I guess excuse me. My question is that is that me? Oh, okay. My question is that is that me? Oh, okay. My question about transportation, of course, Robinwood, the kids in Hillsmere don't have a bus. And so they, I just got a text. They want me to get my church van and try to pick up the kids and take them to Hillsmere. So you said to contact the principal. So I'm sure she knows that there's a problem with Hillsmere. But how do they choose the drivers for what communities? Because Robinwood is a very needed community, and those parents don't have transportation. So how do they go about choosing who goes where?
So as I understand it, the decisions are made based on how the routes work and how they can do the runs and how they can gang certain stops in the most efficient way. And Robinwood, because it has a lot of drivers, and is at a distance, essentially needs, if I understand it, its own particular route, right? And so I think that is part of what's at stake. I've been obviously talking with our superintendent. He's aware of the problem. We're trying to, the reason to call the principal is A, to make sure that that contact is made. B, if there are folks in Robinwood, and some folks do have cars who are able to do any kind of carpooling, we're trying to work that out. And I know there have been some church vans and so on that in the past have been offered. And I believe there's been some outreach for that as well. But unfortunately, I was obviously concerned when I saw that because I knew exactly what it would mean. That is part of what happens when you're trying to we've been trying to make these routes as efficient as we can this year, and you end up having, the ability to say, I'm sorry, I can ignore that call. It's probably a sales call. That you end up having to make decisions based to some extent on the efficiency of the route, which kind of, I'm concerned, misses the point of who needs it. But
okay, we're going to move to Jess Packler with her hand up.
So one of the questions that I had was actually in that same line with Odessa. How much flexibility is there in the routes? Like when we have the contracts with the bus companies, are they contracted by the routes, right? Like, are they contracted to say, this many routes for the Annapolis cluster and this many routes for Hillsmere and for Annapolis Middle, or is there flexibility within that construct?
That is something I'm going to have to get back to you on, because my understanding is that sort of we determine the routes and then they bid on them, but I'm not sure about that. So I'd have to check into that for you to make sure I'm giving you the right information.
If they're bidding on routes, then that severely limits our flexibility, right? It limits, for example, the Robinwood situation, saying, okay, you know what, we're going to have the Overlook Hunt Meadow bus stop and pick up the Robinwood kids, or we're going to have the Overlook Hunt Meadow bus get there earlier, change the time, drop those kids off at Hillsmere, then run back out, get the Robinwood kids and run back in, right? Same with everything. When you look at a map, I did a map the other day, just to put it all together. And when you look at the map of the Annapolis High School routes that we're missing, we're at 25% of the routes that aren't being serviced are Annapolis High School routes.
Right.
And of those, 90% of them run down Forest Drive. So It's all of our communities on Forest Drive, and the one that's not running continuously from West Annapolis and from that side is the one that hits Admiral Oak. So it's really hitting every single bus route that's running is hitting our lowest income communities and the least likely to have transportation. So in my mind, it seems like, well, can we look and say, you know what, there's not so many people on this route, and this route is more likely to have transportation. So maybe that's a route that we say, you don't, and, and we make some switching around because, anyway, I was just wondering.
Yeah, I've actually been raising those points, and we'll start with the essential problem right now, which, as I said, is one I don't see going away, which is we have to work with contractors as it now stands, and we have very little real leverage because we don't have a lot of contractors, right? And I think, honestly, now this is long term. This doesn't help us with this, but long term, My own view, and I've talked with staff and I understand, I mean, it's not a simple thing to do, is given the current state of the bus driving industry, which is not good, you know, we may have to see, at least for certain parts of the county, like the Annapolis cluster, what is needed for us to be able to directly employ our own bus drivers for those routes, because clearly this is what we went through last year. Now we've tried to adjust. We've certainly tried to notify people better than we did, but the fact remains that we were down starting this year just about exactly the same number of bus drivers we were down at the end of last year. And that, you know, I'm not seeing anything that's suddenly going to change that anytime soon. So I think the long-term answer to this is got to be, and Dr. Bedell said this at our board meeting. He said, look, we got to think about this differently. I mean, it may just be we just can't depend on an industry that has to have CDL licenses, quite frankly. Something's got to change here. And I think that we can piece a few things together, and the equity implications of this are huge. I mean, you're exactly right. You look at the map and it's very clear who's getting hit and who isn't. And that's not okay. Sorry.
Sorry, no. So on that whole thing and part of the equity, I know that in the past we've talked about GPS, we've talked about text messaging, we've talked about apps, you know, there are school systems across the country. So, okay, we are where we are. We don't have these bus drivers that are running. And then we're also, in addition to the bus routes we know don't have drivers, we have bus drivers that are getting sick. We have buses that are too full. The Annapolis High School Cat South bus today was too full. So half the kids that were supposed to go to Cat South didn't get to go to Cat South.
Right.
Broadneck, I think it was, they didn't even get a Cat South bus. And then, you know, there's other things. But the communication side of things is making an already bad situation worse. So, you know, one of the things, we get this text message every day, twice a day, and it is a standard text message that says the same thing every day, which is, this message is to let you know that contractors have made us aware of impacts to one or more buses scheduled, blah, blah, blah. Please go to aacps.org/buses for details and more information. And then in order to get details and more information, you have to click on a link, and then that link takes you to a web page, and then you have to click on another link, and then you have to scroll through, generally you're on your phone, a very small spreadsheet that's very hard to scroll through on your phone. And there are other ways to give this information. If we aren't at a case where we can have an app, which I feel like we should be, because we were told a couple years ago that as soon as we had the stop signs, as soon as the buses were GPS enabled, then we would be okay. We would be able to have an app for our transportation system. So from what I understand, we should be able to have an app. But at the very least, I mean, there are a lot of implications, right? So first of all, if you are on a limited data plan, or if you pay for by the text, you are getting 2 texts a day, regardless of whether you ride a bus or not. You're getting 2 texts a day, and you don't have a chance to opt out unless you want to opt out of every single communication from the school system. And then again, if you're on a limited data plan, but your child does ride a bus, you now have to click a link and then open a browser and then go to another link and then go to another link. At Annapolis High School, which is all data usage, right? So that's for our families who don't have who have limited data, our families who are on pay-go phones, or our family, you know, that's an equity problem, and that's
or you're in dead zones. Yeah.
Or you're in dead zones and it's a cost. So for example, what Annapolis High School did last year and doing again this year, they send out a text that says, these are the buses that are not running today. And it's the bus numbers. So you look at that and you say, great, okay, my kid's bus is on that, or my kid's bus is not on that. It's one text, one information. I look at it, I say, great, this is about, and now I can make a decision about what I need to do for the day. And I don't have to spend 5 minutes trying to figure out whether or not my child's bus is and using data. So I'd like to ask that we revisit while we're in this, we can't make 72 bus drivers appear tomorrow, but we certainly can make it easier for our families to understand what's going on and to get the information in a timely manner and in a manner that's direct for them, right? If I don't have any kids riding a bus, I don't need to get those things. And I thought part of the whole registration process also was so that everybody who is on a bus or not on a bus, the school system would have that information. So that's a request that I have. Because
no, I think that's a point well taken, and I will certainly be bringing it up with Dr. Bedell because he is very sensitive to this as well. We've already had conversations about ensuring that things are geared towards people who live on their phone, who do not have access to vast data plans and the assumption that, they got Wi-Fi just hanging out when they need it. And so, he's well aware of that. Frankly, the other districts he's worked in, this has been very much a part of the concern. I think I mentioned to the commission maybe in May or June when I met with you that, he's considered one of the leading urban educators in the country. And these are frankly issues that often do emerge in particularly in an urban context. So thanks for that suggestion, Jess. I think that's a good one. And I am certainly going to be bringing it to him because I think it makes a lot of sense. And, somebody else doesn't have to be putting out an extra text necessarily. So
okay, we're gonna move along to Laura and then Jamie to try and squeeze in as many questions as we can before you have to go, Dr. Tobin.
Okay.
I want to reiterate everything that Jess said about the opt-in, but I'm still sort of baffled by why we went through the opt-in process for two reasons. First, we were told if your kid might ever want to ride the bus ever, you have to opt in. So that's basically all the kids. I mean, if we carpool in my neighborhood because we are a magnet program and the bus stop is a consolidated bus stop and it's not near my neighborhood. So we carpool. So my kid will likely never ride the bus, but I'm told I have to opt her in if she might ever in an emergency, like my car breaks down, I have to opt her in. So we had to opt in, but that's an empty seat that now is allocated supposedly for a kid. So I don't really see that that's given that we have bus seats are precious this year. We need to have every seat filled by a kid who's going to ride it on a regular basis. So I'm frustrated that the opt-in process worked that way. Instead of saying, hey, we're going to fill 95% of the seats on that bus and leave that 5 to 10%, 2 to 4 seats empty in case of emergency. Because then any kid, rather than say, this is Mary's emergency seat. If Mary ever needs to ride the bus, then this seat is specifically Mary's seat. When the odds of if there are 8 kids on that bus who might, all have the odds of all 8 kids who are allocated to that bus having an emergency on the same day is, highly, highly unlikely. So that's my first frustration. Second, the frustration is that we were told, okay, you have to opt in so that you will have a seat on a bus. But then we were never told which bus that is. Like there was never any communication back that said, this is your bus stop. This is where we expect you to get on. So if I'm in a neighborhood that say it's a big, broad neighborhood and there's a bus that runs on that side of the neighborhood and there's a bus that runs on the opposite entrance to my neighborhood, which bus am I supposed to be on? There was never any feedback telling parents.
Been told that, yeah.
Yeah, which bus you're supposed to get on. Like, oh, we expect your kid. And presumably when they were designing routes, it was based on, hey, this stop, you're stopping here, but we've got 20 kids that we expect to get on. So this bus is going to sit here for 5 minutes. So that had to be built into the timing routes, as opposed to, hey, this neighborhood over here, there's only 1 kid. But if that 1 kid is walking to the other side of the neighborhood, now nobody's getting off. So why are we even stopping there if nobody's getting on? So,
well, first, let me say a couple of things. First of all, this was our first year doing opt-in. The decision of the administration was to be very conservative in the way they presented it. I think based on a year's experience, it's likely to be a little different moving forward because, to your point, some things have been learned. I think it's also important to understand we are still adjusting these routes, right? And that's always the case through the first couple of weeks, right? Who's where? How does this work? Now, one of the things that this opt-in does enable is the schools now, I think they're getting their lists the end of this week, the beginning of it. They will know who's on what bus, right? They didn't know that before.
Right. But if your kid's been riding this bus for a week, now what? Now the school's going to say, oh, no, you came in on that bus this morning, but now we want you to get on this other bus over here.
Right, because they haven't told parents what bus we're on. I don't know how they can tell the schools what bus we're on.
Right.
Right.
Well,
like I said.
Well, I'm repeating what I've been told by the superintendent, and that is part of what they're working out this first week. So there will, I suspect, be, in the cases where it's necessary, more communication around this, but they are continuing to adjust the routes just based on what they're seeing, right? Because there was the opt-in, and then there's the actual ridership, which won't look the same necessarily. So it is my understanding there will be lists, there will be that hard information, both for schools and for parents. The schools certainly do have some information, because when I was there on the first day of school, they were put in an elementary school, they were putting tags on the kids' backpacks in the morning with their bus number on it, so that they knew, the teachers knew, the kids knew what bus they were getting onto in the afternoon. So that information will be forthcoming, is my understanding.
I know in the past that was
no, Laura, I have to cut you off. I'm sorry. I want to let Jamie have a chance to ask a question, because I know that Dr. Tobin has to leave shortly. And I also just want to put in a plug, if we're doing any contract positions or stealing anybody from the central office, please pull them over into our district transportation specialist, because that is one of the most crucial in the county.
Can I add one? I have one really specific thing, and that was that the bus that used to take kids from the Annapolis Middle area over to Bates is apparently not there this year, which has immediately resulted in at least one kid that I know being forced to drop out of the PVA program. And again, this is a student from from one of our neighborhoods where this opportunity was really, something that she doesn't have access to in a private, from outside of school. And so that's a huge loss opportunity. Our magnet programs are amazing, but if our kids are losing access to them because of this, that should be, I think, a top priority in terms of things that we need to look at. So thank you.
Okay, I'm moving over to Jamie, please.
My question actually can just wait till it's regular transportation. It's not specifically for Ms. Tobin, so it's okay. I'll wait.
Okay, because she does have to.
Let me just say, so my email is jtobin@aacps.org. If there is anything that anybody thinks of tonight they didn't get a chance to ask me about, please email me. I read all my emails this week. I've not really been responding as much as I would like, because I've been kind of swamped with the opening of the week, but I read all my emails. I try to get back to you as soon as I can. For those of you who don't know, board members, we don't have staff, so it's just us. So my cell phone is not a great way to reach me, because I just can't guarantee that I'll pick it up, because I have a day job. But you can always email me. So any question you have, any concern you have, you can always reach me that way. You don't have to wait for a commission meeting if something comes up. So
I would like to just throw in a couple thoughts, because you'll miss the discussion on transportation that we're going to do later. I just hope that as we've mentioned to you, that you'll continue to press the transportation planners within the city and within the county who have been talking to each other over the past few days to week to try and resolve these things. They're going to come into some regulatory hurdles and stuff, but if you can press that they really get to yes, that it just can't, our status quo can't survive. Our kids can't survive it. So if we can really hard court press them into, like, we have got to come up with some fixes.
Well, I will tell you that Dr. Bedell has had a couple of very good long conversations with Mayor Buckley about this. I think they want to get it done. And so, you know, he continues to press on that, and I will continue to press on both of them to to get it done. As you probably know, Gavin was out with COVID for a while, and so he was a little under the weather, but they had long conversations even while he was sick about this. So they are working on that. So,
okay. And I know that Jess has put forward, you know, proposals for greater access for our residents to fill jobs at Annapolis High through, you know, an extension of the bus line. We have PA positions, we have, you know, staffing positions, teacher positions, custodial, food service, all sorts of things at Annapolis High that aren't filled, that our residents could fill if they had better transportation, and they had better transportation into the county pool with an extension of that bus stop to the county pool, Annapolis High area.
I do have to run, but I will tell you something that I think is simply a fact, and is something I think Dr. Bedell is, he did this when he was in other districts. He will do it here, and he'll be very clear about it. We feel very strongly that it's our job to be accountable for doing the best for our students in school. That's our job. It is also the case that COVID and many other things have revealed, I think, two realities that most of us are aware of. The schools often stand in for affordable daycare, right? Because there isn't a lot of affordable, high quality daycare. And the schools also stand in for a lack of public transportation.
Right.
And actually in Annapolis, we're a little better off than a lot of the county in the sense that we have a city transportation system, but as you rightly point out, it needs work. And Dr. Bedell's view of this, and I agree with him, is, you know, we will be accountable for our results, for what we're supposed to do, and we will be transparent about that. But in that process, we will also call on our partners in the city and the county to step up with what they need to do, so that we have all these other supports that we know kids and their families need around school that are not school. They're adjacent to school. And so these are things, including after school programs, including all sorts of things that I think are priorities for Dr. Bedell, and certainly for me going forward. So
I wanted to speak.
I'm going to recognize Alderwoman Finlayson to speak.
Yes, thank you. And I do apologize. I've got two other phones that were ringing at the exact same time. So I do apologize. And I think I missed part of the question, but there is a meeting scheduled for tomorrow with the Director of Transportation for Anne Arundel County, Mr. Sneed, our Director, Dr. Dua, and the Director of Transportation for Anne Arundel County Public Schools. They are already reworking one, if not more, routes in the city, the yellow route specifically. I know they're making changes to. So do know that there is a plan to meet tomorrow with expected results by the end of that meeting.
Could they have someone from the Education Commission or someone sit in on that? Just to give the education perspectives? I know, because I've sat with the planning director in previous years, and they don't always have the input from the education needs, but.
I think that's at the level of the directors. And so I am sure that they have all been given specific guidance as to what the outcome should be. So I wouldn't suggest that I would even interject myself into it. So I think they will be able to handle this for us.
Okay. All right, Dr. Tobin, I know you have to run, but thank you. Could we also ask that in your conversations with Dr. Bedell, if you could figure out when in the coming months he might be able to join us at a commission meeting?
Sure.
We would love to have him, and whenever his schedule opens up, would be great for us.
Yes, he is in high demand right now, but he's doing his best to cover all the requests, and I'm sure he'll be, you know, as his schedule allows, he'll be happy to attend. So thank you as always for inviting me.
Great.
And I'm sorry I have to run, but thank you all for everything that you do.
And thank you for everything that you do to try to keep our school system on track. We appreciate that.
I think you're going to see some very good things this year. I think you're going to see some wonderful movement forward in some very important areas. And, you know, not everything will get solved immediately, but I think we're headed in some good directions. So thank you. Have a great night, everyone. Have a wonderful start to the school year. And you know where to find me if you have any questions or any other concerns. And thank you for everything. Good night. Have a good night.
Laura, I'm going to ask if you could pull up the Excel file that we have. Our next topic is going to be just like AACPS staff updates. I wasn't sure if Ms. Jolene Davis was going to be able to join us, but we have some updates on staffing from Annapolis High and Annapolis Middle. And if anybody else knows of new staffing changes at their schools, we would love to hear your input at that time. Okay, so if you can read this on your screen. I believe I sent it out to you. It was the responses from Ms. Jackson, who was our interim superintendent, regarding the 3 social worker positions. I sent her an email from the commission asking where the additional 3 social worker positions had been added within the school system that the county allocated for the budget. I was hoping, because the Annapolis High PTSA has for a number of years, and our commission has made motions regarding supporting the addition of a social worker at Annapolis High, that we have, 2,200 students with the 1 social worker. So this was her response that no, those 3 additional were going to be allocated to Crofton Middle, Central Middle, South River High School, Severna Park High School, and Severna Park Middle School. Many social workers will split school districts, just like some of our bilingual facilitators do. So she did give us a rundown of the current number of counselors and assistant principals with the 1 social worker that you can see on the screen here. We have talked previously that the Children's Guild therapists, who are not AACPS staff, are limited in which type of students they can see. And anyone, Jess, or anyone who's previously been on this before, I believe it was if you had insurance, you had to have insurance to be able to see them. So those uninsured students couldn't see the Children's Guild therapists. And we do have a number of students in our system that don't have, are not covered by insurance. So while there are 4 of them accessible, that doesn't cover many of our students in need, because of the, a regular social worker at the school can see any of our students regardless of their insurance status or other things. I am not aware if any of our educators know what MTSS in the very last line, when it says central office direct support for MTSS several times per month. Does anybody know what that acronym stands for?
Multi-tiered support systems.
Okay.
So that's the comprehensive. I've talked to Jolene about this the other day. That's the comprehensive, there are students who maybe are seeing social services in one area and then, getting assistance from another area. So they work together with those different, with the multi-tiered support service. And it's also part of what part of the PBIS and the community program. Sorry, Jolyn, I'm totally messing up what you told me if you're listening, but that's what that means. And so it's when students or families are getting multi-levels of help from the school system and maybe from outside the school system as well.
Okay. Okay, great. So as we talk about our goals and stuff for the year, and as we formulate what we want to advocate for in the proposal, you know, the superintendent starts developing his budget requests fairly early in November or December. He presents it, I believe, to the, so that we want to think about continuing to request an additional social worker at Annapolis High that can see all students, regardless of having to ignore some with certain insurance statuses. So I would encourage us to keep that in mind. Does anybody have any questions on this allocation, or we will then move to the Annapolis Middle School page? Okay, seeing no questions. Laura, can you move us to the next one with Annapolis Middle? Okay. So Jess, if you want to introduce this good news about Annapolis Middle, we're very thrilled to have.
Yeah. So I think we talked about this in May or June, but Annapolis Middle is now a Title I school, which is a designation that's based on the number of students who qualify for free and reduced meals at the school. And that is a lot of times that is seen as a negative by, you know, people who don't understand what Title I truly means, but really being a Title I school means that we get extra funding for a lot of supports that our families need. So it has nothing to do with the quality of the school. It has nothing to do with the quality of the education. It has 100% to do with the amount of supports that are being able to be provided to the school. So for example, at Annapolis Middle, and we are the first middle school in the county to be a Title I school. We have 5 new parent workshops to provide tools that will help support students' school work at home. For those who have been at Title I elementary schools, you might recognize that at Title I, you know, at elementary, well, it'll be the similar, like this is what math your middle school looks like and what your student is learning and how you can help them, even if it's a math level beyond where your math level is. This is how, you know, language arts are being taught, that type of thing, and how you can help your child study better. Just basically parenting, you know, great tools to help parents. It's at the elementary school level, those have been some of the most useful things that I've gone to as a, hey man.
Sorry.
As a parent.
I was trying to figure out how to put my hand up.
Additionally, we have 9 additional staff members this year, 2 interventionists with helps, as it says, help students overcome learning challenges, and really can work day to day with students who need it, who need a little extra help and, you know, a guiding hand, behavioral specialist, a second social worker. So we've had a social worker. Now the second social worker is going to be able to, the original social worker has focused more on concerns within the school. This additional social worker, from what I understand, is going to be focused more on connections within the community and creating some of those lines that we know are so important between home and school, and solving issues and helping families and students with their needs in that level. 2 school performance coaches and a math specialist to help work with staff and students, because we have a particular need in math. We're going to be able to have more field trips and interactive assemblies. For everyone who knows, you know, in past pre-COVID, a lot of times kids weren't able to go on field trips due to lack of funds. The PTA would try to support that as much as possible, but this will just really help to ensure that everyone's getting the same equitable opportunities, at least when it comes to field trips, assemblies. They're going 8th grade field trip to a Maryland college, and then enhanced training opportunities for staff, which is great. And really, you know, our staff, all of our staff at all of our schools work incredibly hard. I particularly want to give a shout out to the Annapolis middle staff who worked really, really hard, and this addition, the opportunity to have enhanced training is really a benefit for them and then for the school as a whole. So it's a great, I'm really excited. Yay.
Thank you. Thank you for giving that detailed explanation to help us see the bigger picture there. Does any?
Laura's raising her hand.
Okay, Laura's raising her hand. Yes,
Well, I'm just wondering, I know for our elementary schools, Title I carries along with it smaller class sizes. Do you know if at the middle school level, it also has smaller class sizes than in a non-Title I middle school, or is that not something we know yet?
I am not sure, although I can say that, so that's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So there's 2 additional staff members that aren't listed here. So I don't know if those are additional teachers and that is part of it, but I can ask Ms. Hunt and get back to you on that.
Okay. Does anybody else want to provide any changes within their school districts? Any new principals you want to introduce, or any other changes in staffing that you know of?
Annapolis, I mean, Eastport
Amy,
Elementary.
are you raising your hand?
Germantown has a new principal, Miss Sanera, retired. And so we now have Mrs. Foster, who is coming over from Rolling Knolls, who is now the principal at Germantown. Mr. Skeel is still our vice principal, so he's still there. But she is new to our staff there.
Great. Nice that she knows the area and knows many of our students.
Yeah, I think she even taught at Germantown at one point too. So that's kind of nice also.
Awesome. That's great to hear. Okay, thank you. Jess, did you have a raised hand currently?
I do. We have a new principal, and for the first time in at least the near recent history of Eastport Elementary, we have an assistant principal, which is great. Miss Aarons is our new principal. She was previously a teacher at Eastport and has gone on and been other things, and she is back as our principal, which is great. And then Miss Morrissey is our assistant principal, and she actually worked as a math specialist at Eastport. So both of them know Eastport, which is great. And we are really looking forward to a great year and hope that Miss Gallagher is enjoying her retirement reading books somewhere.
Great. Yes. Thank you, Ms. Gallagher, and welcome new staff members. Great. Okay, I'm going to move on to point number 8 on our agenda, which is kind of discussion status. The first one was transportation, and I do appreciate Alderwoman Finlayson's update about the city, county, and AACPS directors of transportation meeting tomorrow. That's great news, and we will keep posted on what results and changes they are going to be proposing or implementing shortly, and we will let the commission members know about that. If you have any other issues on transportation, Jess, would you like to?
Yeah, I just wanted to, based on that meeting that's happening tomorrow, I sent out last week when we got the list of the routes and looked at the routes and really started thinking about it. I think for those who have been on the commission for a while, we often bring up the need for an Annapolis High School bus stop. And, for any number of reasons, for the students, for the adults, for the swimming pool, there's no bus stop there's no city bus stop at our Annapolis High School. And I, sent out an email, and there's been a lot of discussion and back and forth on this. I know that there is discussion about working with AACPS and, the issues that come with creating a stop directly for students. And I think one of the things that is really important for us all to maybe think about or realize is that we need to stop at Annapolis High School. It's not just for the students, and it's not certainly just because of the missing bus routes. We have needed a bus stop at Annapolis High School for years. As Janet was saying, it's a workforce development issue, right? We have, teachers and staff who live in the city, or potential teachers and staff who live in the city, and there is no way to take a bus to get to Annapolis High School. If you live off of Forest Drive, it's an hour and a half to 2 hours to take a bus to get to Annapolis High School, and that includes a lot of walking. And while
Wait,
I
is the bus stop, excuse me, Jan, is the bus stop still in front of there on River Road?
it is in front of Riva
The
Road, but in
Heritage
order,
Building.
it is in front of Riva. There is a bus stop in front of Riva Road, but in order to get that, so say you live in Heritage or in Robinwood, right? So one of those, or somewhere right there on Forest Drive, you have to take the brown bus all the way to the mall, or a bus all the way to the mall to get on the yellow route. And then you have to take the yellow route down Forest Drive. And I mean, it's at least an hour, if not more. When you put it through the transit app, it doesn't show any options that get you there before school starts. And a lot of times that route also ends earlier in the evening. So if you're working late, or you're swimming late, or you're a baseball coach and you're coming home, or you're a baseball player and you're coming home, you can't hop on that bus, right? So there's a lot of reasons besides just the students. And I think it's important for all of us to remember that these are Annapolis residents, right? The majority of the people that go to Annapolis High School are Annapolis residents. So I think what the number for today that I saw today, I think we're at like 2,100,
79 or something.
right? We were at 2,159 last year.
Yeah.
Only 302 of those 2,159 are out of area, right? So that's Annapolis going to high school, and our city bus stop doesn't have a bus stop there. So, this isn't really an AACPS or even a county issue. This is our city issue. And if we can have buses at the mall, then we can certainly should be able to have a bus. I did the mapping, and if you were to add a bus on the Brown line, which is the main line that goes from Annapolis Neck to the mall, if you were to add a stop between Festival at Riva and the mall, it would add about 10 minutes on to the Brown line's route, but it would service everybody who wants to get to the Annapolis High School area, whether you're going there for the pool, whether you're going there to work, whether you're going there as a student because you missed the bus, or whether you're coming home because your classes are over at 11 o'clock in the morning, and you need to get home or whatever. So
you have to leave campus.
Right.
I mean,
right, which I think is something that a lot of people don't understand, right? I think I certainly didn't understand it until I had a high schooler, that the way the school schedules work at Annapolis High, and I think it's countywide, is that if you only have a certain number of classes on a B day and your classes end by 11 o'clock, you have to leave. You are not allowed. We don't have space at Annapolis High School or anywhere for study hall. It's not like when I was in high school, if I had classes ended early, I had to stay on campus. At Annapolis High School, you have to leave. So if your class ends at 11:10, then you have to find a way to get home. And if you don't have your own transportation and there's no bus stop, then I don't know what you do. Really, I don't know what you do.
Just so when you say in a bus stop, you want the bus to come on the campus? Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm saying it can go on Riva Road. I mean, it can stop on Riva Road.
Yeah.
But it's not in front of Heritage? It's not in front of that building anymore?
So there is, but that's the yellow line, and that's still a 10-minute. I mean, Heritage. So there is a stop at Heritage. It doesn't run all the time. It runs only certain times of the day. It's an extended stop, and it's still not at Annapolis High School. It's still a 10-minute walk up the street. But also that's the yellow line, which anyone in the city, to get on the yellow line, you really have to go to the mall. From wherever you are, you have to take a bus to the mall and then get on that bus, which then eventually takes you around and gets you to Annapolis High School.
Right.
So it's not really a super convenient.
If you work in food service at the high school for 3 hours, you're going to spend an hour and a half on the bus to get there to work for your 3 hours or whatever to cover the lunches, and then another hour and a half on the way back. So you're spending as much time on the bus as you are working.
Right.
Oh, okay.
Right. So
yeah, just that was a really important point to make then about people not understanding that students are required to leave. If you are not enrolled in an academic course, and I heard this directly from the guidance counselor as I was preparing with a student this fall. if you are not enrolled in an academic course, you're required to leave the campus. There are no such things as study halls. You cannot stay around. So I think that's a different than when many of us grew up. So let's continue to press on the most efficient way to get our residents, up the Annapolis neck from the Forest Drive corridor to the Pool Heritage High School complex.
Right. I think it's really important. We have to, I think your suggestion of having someone, because it can't just add a stop. We have to add a stop that works, because otherwise it won't get used. It won't be. I did have another transportation thing. Corey has done some reaching out, trying to figure out the crossing guard situation in the city, because obviously any crossing guards in the city are hired by Annapolis Police Department, and that's not a county decision or an AACPS decision. That's an Annapolis City decision. And I know that, and Jamie, maybe you can talk about what's happening over at Germantown. I know that at Eastport, we are short one crossing guard that has been a crossing guard for a long time. And due to that, the Department of Safety and Security has requested that the primary entrance into and out of the school for pickup and drop off be on Chesapeake Avenue, which is causing huge issues in terms of traffic and issues, because Chesapeake Avenue, obviously for anyone who's driven in Eastport, is the main thoroughfare in and out of school. And Fifth Street has always traditionally been the main entrance in and out of the school. We have a bus cut out there. We have spots along Severn Avenue that are blocked off during drop off and pickup, so that cars can park there and two-way traffic can still get past. But because of the lack of crossing guard, the lack of the second crossing guard, Safety and Security decided that the Chesapeake Avenue doors would be a better option, and it has caused a lot of issues in terms of traffic for the community. So Corey reached out to the police department to try to get more information on that. Unfortunately, the person who handles that is not back in the office until tomorrow, so we don't have an update on that. But Jamie, if you can tell us what's going on with you guys and anyone else who knows about crossing guard issues, just so we can keep track on that and make sure we're following up on all the issues.
Yes, I'm not 100% sure, but we did have a crossing guard out in front of our school that was working pretty well. But I know I have a lot of parents concerned about, there is another intersection where children from Admiral Heights are walking to school from. And so it's that Cedar Park and Wendell. There is like a double crosswalk there for kids to cross over Cedar Park onto Wendell, and then again across the street again to be on the same side as Germantown. And there's just a lot of parent concern of it being very unsafe, where people are not stopping correctly, and we've been requesting to get an extra crossing guard. And I know, obviously, I don't want to be taking extra if you don't even have one at yours, but that is definitely, crossing guards have been a concern at Germantown for a long time at that intersection. Last year it was brought up to be dealt with and nothing has happened. I know that the principal is also just implementing a different kind of carpool line at Germantown this year that I'm not sure how that's working yet. I have to kind of check in with car riders on how that's going. But I definitely do feel like the safety of students who are walking to school from Admiral Heights to Germantown is a huge concern.
Great. Okay, thanks. I will make sure.
I just want to tell Pam, can you make a note in our minutes that we want an action item of following up on the crossing guard situation with Annapolis Police Department and the status with our schools, that we want to figure that out.
Corey's been reaching out. She's just been.
Yeah. I just want an action item to remind me to bring it up in the next meeting.
Right. Because the other thing is that if we have a need, how do we get them? So this came up at Eastport, and one of our parents said, well, how do I sign, can I be a crossing guard? Because I think that perhaps there's people who might be willing to spend, you know, half an hour twice a day being a crossing guard if they knew that, but we need to know where the needs are and what is going on and what.
Well, I had one crossing guard to tell me that when the bus drivers got a raise, that they didn't give the crossing guards a raise. And so, I mean, Sheila, do you know anything about that?
I'm afraid I don't. But I do know that bus drivers are not being paid by the same agency that pays the crossing.
Right.
So
Yeah, that's true.
The reason that they're not connected.
Not to mention, bus drivers are in the county and our crossing guards are city paid. They're city employees.
But they felt, she felt slighted that they didn't pay any attention to the crossing guards. You know,
well,
as far as
crossing guards, if they are paid out of our police department, they did get a raise. Now, I'm not going to say what it was. They did get a raise. And the bus drivers are paid by the contractors that hired them for the most part. So, you know, that could be all over the map.
Okay.
All right, thank you. So we're going to move on to, we are tight, and I know that you all need to move on to other elements of your lives. I appreciate all the volunteers who are giving your time. The next item is before aftercare issues and follow-up. Does anyone within the commission have any updates there that they could share? Jamie, did you have your hand? Awesome. Okay, Jamie's going to give us.
Okay, yeah, I just had a parent concern today. I know that we obviously have a pre-K at Germantown, and there are a lot of 4-year-olds in that program. But as of now, I heard that City Parks and Rec, I guess they're not certified for 4-year-olds to be in the aftercare program. So you have to be 5. So that is causing a lot of parent, I heard that they're being, audited or something this year. So they're being very careful. And a lot of the 4-year-olds that were enrolled in aftercare who are in pre-K at Germantown are now being told that they cannot stay after school for the aftercare program.
So they were allowed to be enrolled and
now they're all getting called. And if their birthday is not, if they are not 5 before December, they have to leave.
Okay.
And now parents are being forced to find other means of childcare.
That's a hard switch on people.
Yes. So I think the parent that I was talking to, she thinks that like only one of the students is able to stay and the rest of them are having to find another form of childcare after school, which is already difficult in itself being the time change. So I'm not sure what we can do about that.
Okay. All right. Jess, did you have some input here?
I do. So, well, Corey does, and I'm just going to speak because Corey doesn't like speaking in public.
Okay.
So,
thank you, Corey, for figuring these things out and talking to people. We appreciate that.
Yeah, she's done a lot of work the last month on getting information, which has been super awesome. Thank you, Corey. So she reached out just to get some information so that we all are on this. We know where we are with ARPD, Annapolis Recs and Parks. So Annapolis Recs and Parks is offering, and just so everybody knows, if you're new to this or whatever, is that in the schools that are in the city or in the cluster, the county does not provide it's what's called SACC, school age childcare, in our cluster schools. So if you have friends who are in Arnold and they're registering in some way for their SACC, those are not the same because the city of Annapolis Recs and Parks Department is who provides before and after care in our schools versus the county Rec and Park, which provides it in the county. So just so everyone understands that delineation there. The ARPD is offering before and after care at West Annapolis, Hillsmere, and Germantown. And they are offering aftercare at Mills Parole, Georgetown East, and Annapolis Elementary. They are not offering any before or after care at Tyler Heights or Eastport Elementary. Before care runs from 7 a.m. until the start of school, and after care begins at 2:30 and runs until 6 p.m. The number of children allowed at each school varies based on the size, the area that they are in at the school. And one of the questions that Corey asked was, is childcare provided at each location or off-site? And the answer was, at this time, all care is done at the schools mentioned above. We also have a teen after-school program through REACH that is here at Pta Member. And are there any other childcare programs being offered this year other than the ones mentioned? Not at this time. They are in the process of developing a program at Pta Member, but that has not been finalized. So then she went back with some questions. Are the programs at the schools full? There's limited space available at 5 of the 6 schools. So one of the schools is full, but they didn't specify which one. And she asked if they are working on creating programs at Eastport and Tyler Heights, and if not, why? Not at this time. We have had programs there in the past and tried to reinstate the program, but encountered low to no registrations, which I'll speak to that at least as far as Eastport after this. Can students from Eastport and Tyler Heights attend the aftercare program at, say, Annapolis or Georgetown East? And would ARPD be able to provide transportation in that case to the program? If parents wanted to register children for the aftercare program at either of these schools, they certainly could. However, they would not be able, ARPD would not be able to provide transportation. Who can attend the REACH program? How do they apply and how do they get there? Children in grades 6 to 12, transportation is provided from Annapolis and Bates Middle School, as well as Annapolis High School. And to register, you contact Ronche Clark, and the email address is RD, as in Davis Clark, CLARK, at annapolis.gov. R as in radio, D as in David, Clark, CLARK, at annapolis.gov. And then it was, are you working with Annapolis Middle and Bates for any programming? And yes, and that was that. That was
Excellent. Excellent information. Thank you so much for digging for that. We appreciate that.
Yeah. And
yeah,
I would
so
like
for
to
any parents out there that have not, obtained some aftercare, before care, call your program again and see if there's still some slots you can get into.
Right. And I think we need to really focus with, with the eSport, they're going off of registrations from 2018. Those children are now in high school, right? So to say that there were low to no registrations, that was pre-COVID, that was pre-start times, that was pre
a whole different unemployment rates. When you look at 4 years ago, unemployment was a certain rate, and now we're down to 2% and 3% unemployment in
exactly. So, I really feel that needs to be revisited. And I feel like childcare shouldn't be one of those things that we say, well, once upon a time, there was no registration, so we're not going to try again. I think that's something that should be tried every single year by ARPD at our schools. So I really hope that we can work to getting that, because it's really it's for Tyler Heights and Eastport not to have childcare options can be really difficult. So, and thank you very much, Corey, for doing all that work. I appreciate it.
Yes. Okay. We have hands up, Pam's hand and then Laura.
Okay. I just wanted to ask Jess for clarification. So the 6 schools, 3 only offer it in the morning and 3 only offer it after school. Is that?
No, 3 offer it before and after, and 3 offer it only after.
Oh, okay. So, West Annapolis,
Ellesmere,
and Germantown offer it both before and after.
Yes.
Yep.
And then Mills Parole, Georgetown East, and Annapolis Elementary only after.
Only after. Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. Okay, Laura, quickly.
So just to clarify, sorry. All right, there we go. Just to clarify, they didn't even offer registration at Tyler Heights and Eastport. It wasn't even.
No, there was no option.
So we don't really know that there was an interest because there was no opportunity given. Okay. Second, I know we talked in the past about hurdles with registration, that you had to go and do it in person at the rec center, as opposed to being able to do it over the phone or online or even through the school. I mean, if a parent is already coming to school, to drop a child off, they could conceivably pay, give cash or check or whatever at the school. Was that an option this time around or not?
I don't know, because we didn't have, Jamie, do you know? You're muted.
From what I've heard, that it was the same as last year where they had to go to the Parks and Rec. Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised because I know they haven't made that change for any of the other programming at Recs and Parks. That's been a long time issue that you can't do anything at Recs and Parks where you register online. Everything has to be done at the office at Recs and Parks.
But is there any way that we could get them to allow the schools to take that information and to collect funds and then hand it over to the rec center? I mean, like allow the secretary at the school to do that, or who do we talk to at the city to see if that could be, that we could make it possible for more of our, for more of our families to participate.
So I'm gonna summarize that, Pam, as an action item that the commission looks into ways to make happen online or other non-in-person registration processes before the next meeting, and report back on that and the urgency for that for our families. And then I'm going to go to Enid, had her hand up.
Yes, I was just recalling one of my questions early on today, and was about when we had Mr. Trader on, and I thought that there was going to be a meeting because you all had some of these concerns then, and he said we could certainly meet and discuss that. I was just wondering if anybody did meet with them, and if any of these things were discussed. And somebody asked, who do we talk to? That's who you would talk to, and I think that we need to take these concerns and meet with him.
Okay, I volunteer to go in and take the concerns. I don't have a child in the current situation. I did have my kids in aftercare at Hillsmere long ago, but I'd be happy to compile any concerns and take those in and meet with Mr. Trader.
Great.
Before the next meeting. Okay, so time pressing, we got to move right along. Laura, could you flip us to the next page that has the PTA member listings? I just want to let you know that AACPS Office of Family Partnerships reached out to people who they had on their previous list. They had me on their previous list from Annapolis High PTA things. So they wanted a refreshed list of who they're collaborating with for this upcoming school year. So I provided, and they have a Google form where they're making contact. So India was great to compile this listing of all our existing PTA, PTO programs within the cluster. I've sent them the thing to put their information in with AACPS, but also I included all of them on an email with each other, just so we have coordination and communication. This is always what we've wanted, that the commission to be a source for, that we have the ability to ask a quick question between PTA leaders and have them rise issues up to us. And so prior to the September meeting, I will solicit more input directly from these PTAs and PTOs to make sure that their concerns are being raised within our cluster. If anybody has any comment on that, otherwise I'm going to just go to item D, capacity and student enrollment. I sent out to you by email late this afternoon the AACPS Master Facilities, Educational Facilities Master Plan, published in July of 2022, that just came out, that had some of these projections that Kara McCandless and others were using for capacity and enrollment. So I urge you to take a look at that document, and that we will be discussing it more upcoming in the fall, as Dr. Tobin talked about redistricting issues with Old Mill and such. So if you can put that on your fun reading list, we will talk about it at future meetings. I'm going to move to unfinished business. The one unfinished business item that I know of from Pam's good notes was that the issue of student members to the commission that we raised last year. I brought that up with Hillary, and she advised me that it didn't seem to be possible to have commission appointed student members because of the time frame it takes to get through the nomination, city council, subcommittee review, and then bringing up to nomination to the city council for approval. So that did not, in the short 1 year, not even 1 year, in the short, 9.5 month zone that a student has to indicate they're interested and then try and serve, it was not deemed feasible to get them approved for the council. But so we can think of volunteers, we can think of, people who want to report out from their school, but they would not be commissioned members of the council, of this commission. Any other unfinished business?
Janet, may I ask a question?
Yes.
I wasn't aware that there was a restriction on the term for the student. Is the student only allowed to serve for a year?
We do not assume that the student will want to serve. It's kind of like the student member of the Board of Education serves for a designated 1 year term. So I would not presume that that same student has, equal availability, interest, or whatever as they rise up. If they do, and kind of like Kayla serving as the Ward 4 representative, she was kind of exceptional. But if a student representative wants to continue serving, great. But we don't have. We would have a 1 year position otherwise, that you don't assume the students' time and interest in after school activities are going to be the same year to year.
I don't think we have a limit on the student as far as a requirement that they would have to be a junior coming in or a senior coming in. I think we could take students in their sophomore year if they have expressed an interest. And I know that many of our students are, I want to say, politically involved. Their work in CRAS demonstrates that. So I think we can open the floor to entertain others, not just seniors, but others of the lower grades coming in to serve.
Oh, sure. I would love to get representatives. Often it takes them a while. I mean, I think it's hard for them to speak of Annapolis High until they've been through it for a year. Kind of, they're feeling their way and getting the system and what students need and don't have. And so yes, I would like them to input. And if there's a way we can get people nominated faster, I would love, and commission faster, I would love that. That's been our bottleneck, because we really need Ward 1, Ward 4, and an at-large member to help us contribute their skills. So anything we can do to get people in and helping this commission, I would hope we can pursue. Okay.
Well, maybe we should, and Ms. Odessa will probably know what student organizations would have students that have the interest to serve.
Yeah, I have one student in mind. I mean, I haven't spoken to him yet, but.
Okay, I'll follow up with you on that, Odessa, then.
Okay, all right.
Pam, could you do an action item that we follow up on potential student interest in serving with the commission in whatever role, in whatever non-voting role, designated volunteer, whatever role we can work out.
Okay, that's
Laura,
fine.
did you have a quick unfinished business?
Well, I just was curious. First of all, in the motion that we passed, I don't believe we specified grade. We just said a student that would be I think we said nominated by the school. So if the school puts forth someone, we didn't specify what grade. And if they put forward the same person 2 years in a row, I don't see that there would be any issue with that. But secondly, also, is there a reason why they couldn't be a non-sworn member? I mean, we have them, so that seems to me like a good place to put that, because I understand the bottleneck, unless there's a way that we can expedite the whole process of being sworn to the commission, then I think a non-sworn member seems like a logical place for that.
Okay, we will follow up on that thought. I'm going to move to new business. Do any commission members have some new business?
Enid had her hand up.
Yes, I wanted, you put that list up about, with all the PTA emails.
Yes.
Would it be possible that those schools that are located in Ward 1 and Ward 4, that we send them an email saying, hey, in your area, there is a commission vacancy?
Yes.
And then therefore see if they have some people.
I think that's a great idea, and I will designate myself to follow up on that action item. And send to the PTAs. But if you're talking with people around town, just talk up the positions, and we could use their skills contributing. Any other new business that we have? Anyone else? Great. The next item is our setting the date for our next meeting. And I would propose that for now, we continue with a virtual format, just because I think it's easier. While we have the quorum restriction that we're under, I think it's easier to get us each attending. I'm up in New York State helping my mom tonight, and it just helps us achieve that. So we will coordinate with the city to make sure that they still have a slot for us. And I believe we were working on was it the third Wednesday? We moved this meeting because of, or was it the fourth Wednesday? We moved this meeting a little bit later because of wanting to have Dr. Bedell go through a Board of Ed meeting first. So
Board meetings, I think, are usually first and third, so I think that's why we were at fourth.
okay, so then our meeting would be September 28th, Wednesday, September 28th at 6 p.m. If I am correct in that. That is our proposed next meeting date, and we will identify, I will work with the city TV folks to make sure and try and line up our calendar, looking at holidays and other blockages in the available channels. And
Madam Chair, Josie might be able to take care of that for us. She's the TV staff on.
Yes, yes, I will follow up with Josie, and we will get our proposed dates for the rest of the year on that.
Yeah, the fourth Wednesday, just say the fourth Wednesday is going to put us at Thanksgiving, I believe, and then also at Christmas. So
yeah,
finding alternate dates for.
Okay. Will do. So our next meeting, if you can put it on your calendar, is Wednesday, September 28th at 6 to 8 p.m. And we appreciate you volunteering your time and all your skills and what you do in the community for our students. I am going to propose that make a motion that we adjourn, if we have a second.
My second.
Okay, Enid's second. All in favor? Yay. Thank you all. Please do remember, you can always use the Annapolis Education Commission at gmail.com to get a hold of us, and we will continue to circulate things throughout the month. So look for information from that email address. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate you.
Thank you, everybody.
Good night, everybody. Bye.
Good night.